The bridge of the USS Vanguard hummed with quiet activity as the ship moved through the dark void of space. Commander Alex Carter stood near the main display screen, watching the stars drift past. The exploration mission had been routine so far, mapping unknown systems and searching for new planets that humans might one day call home. Lieutenant Sarah Rodriguez sat at her communication station, monitoring dozens of radio frequencies. Most of the time, space was silent except for the natural sounds of distant stars and cosmic radiation. That's why she jumped when her equipment suddenly picked up something different. "Commander Carter!" Sarah called out, her voice tight with excitement. "I'm getting a signal. It's not from Earth or any human ship." Alex walked over to her station quickly. "What kind of signal?" "It's a distress call, sir. The language is strange, but I think it's using Galactic Standard. The signal is very weak, like it's coming from far away." Captain Lisa Manning entered the bridge just as Sarah began working to clean up the signal. Lisa was a tall woman with short gray hair and sharp eyes that missed nothing. She had been commanding starships for 15 years and had never encountered alien life before. "What do we have, Rodriguez?" Lisa asked. "Working on it now, Captain. The signal keeps cutting in and out, but I'm getting pieces of it." Sarah's fingers moved quickly over her controls. "There, I think I have something." The speakers crackled to life with a voice that was clearly not human. The words were broken and hard to understand, but the desperation was clear even across the language barrier. "Help. Anyone. Ship called Sanctuary. Lost power. 3 weeks. Many dying. Please respond." The bridge fell silent. Chief Engineer Mike Thompson, who had been checking system reports, looked up from his tablet. Dr. Patricia Wells, who was visiting the bridge to deliver medical reports, stopped in the middle of her sentence. "Are those real aliens?" Mike asked in a whisper. Sarah nodded, still listening to the signal. "The message keeps repeating. They say they're from something called the Zephyrian system. Their ship lost power and they're stranded. The signal says they have over 2,000 people on board." Lisa felt her heart racing. This was the moment humanity had wondered about for centuries. First contact with alien life. But it wasn't happening the way anyone had imagined. Instead of a formal meeting between governments, they were hearing a cry for help from lost souls in the darkness. "Can you get their location?" Lisa asked. Sarah worked for several minutes using the ship's sensors to track the signal's source. "Yes, Captain. The signal is coming from coordinates about 6 light-years from here. That puts them in unclaimed space, far from any trade routes or patrol areas." Alex looked at the star charts on the main screen. "Captain, our orders are to continue the survey mission. Command expects us to map the Kepler system and report back in 2 weeks." Lisa understood what Alex was saying. They had their duty to Earth and to their mission. But she also understood what the alien signal meant. Somewhere in the cold emptiness of space, thousands of beings were dying slowly while their ship drifted powerless. "How long would it take to reach them?" Lisa asked. Mike checked his calculations. "At maximum speed, about 4 days. But that would push our engines hard. We'd need to run maintenance after we got there." Dr. Wells stepped forward. "Captain, if they've been without power for 3 weeks, they might not have much time left. Whatever these aliens need to survive, they probably don't have enough of it." Lisa looked around the bridge at her crew. These were good people who had signed up to explore the unknown and help humanity reach for the stars. Now they faced a choice that would define not just their mission, but possibly humanity's first impression on other intelligent life. "Rodriguez, can you send a response?" Lisa asked. "I can try, Captain. I'm not sure if they'll understand our language, but I can transmit on the same frequency." "Do it. Tell them we heard their call and we're coming to help." Sarah's hands moved over her controls as she prepared the message. She spoke slowly and clearly into her microphone, hoping that somehow the aliens would understand. "Unknown vessel Sanctuary. This is the human ship USS Vanguard. We have received your distress signal. We are coming to help you. Hold on. Help is coming." She transmitted the message and then looked at Lisa. "Sent, Captain. I don't know if they'll understand it, but they should at least know someone heard them." Lisa turned to Alex. "Change course for those coordinates. Maximum sustainable speed." "Captain," Alex said carefully, "this could be dangerous. We don't know anything about these aliens. They could be hostile. This could be a trap." Lisa considered this. Alex was right to be cautious. Everything about this situation was unknown and potentially dangerous. But she thought about the desperation she had heard in that alien voice. and about the thousands of beings who were counting down their last hours in the darkness. Mr. Thompson, what's our defensive capability? Mike shrugged. We have basic shields and some light weapons, but we're an exploration ship, not a warship. If these aliens wanted to hurt us, they'd probably be able to do it. Dr. Wells, could we handle alien refugees if we needed to? Patricia thought for a moment. Our medical bay could handle some alien patients, but I don't know what their biology is like. I'd need to study them first. And our life support systems are designed for humans. I don't know if aliens could even breathe our air. Lisa nodded. These were all good points, but she had already made her decision. We're going to help them. Start preparing everything we might need. Rodriguez, keep monitoring their signal and try to learn more about their language. Thompson, I want a full system check. If we're going into unknown territory, I want our ship in perfect condition. As the USS Vanguard changed course and began racing through space toward the alien distress signal, Lisa stood on the bridge and watched the stars. Somewhere ahead of them, in the vast emptiness between worlds, strangers were waiting for help that might never come. But today, help was coming. Today, humanity would answer the call. 4 days later, the USS Vanguard dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the coordinates where the distress signal had originated. What they found there took everyone's breath away. The alien ship called Sanctuary hung in space like a massive work of art. It was easily 3 times the size of the Vanguard, with flowing curves that seemed almost alive. The hull appeared to be made of some kind of biomaterial that pulsed with faint light patterns, though many of those patterns were now dim or completely dark. My God, whispered Dr. Wells as she stared at the main screen. It's beautiful. Commander Carter was more practical. It's also dying. Look at those light patterns. I bet there's some kind of power distribution system, and most of them are offline. Lieutenant Rodriguez was already trying to establish communication. Sanctuary, this is the USS Vanguard. We received your distress call. Please respond. The answer came quickly, and this time the alien voice was much clearer. USS Vanguard, this is Captain Veltar Quineth of the refugee ship Sanctuary. We cannot believe you came. We had given up hope. Sarah worked to improve the translation software as the alien captain continued talking. The Zephyrians, as they called themselves, had fled their home system when it was attacked by something called the Korthak Empire. Their ship carried 2,147 refugees, including many children. Their biodrive had failed 3 weeks ago, and their life support systems were slowly shutting down. Captain Manning listened to the translation with growing concern. Captain Quineth, what do your people need to survive? We want to help, but we need to understand your biology. There was a pause before the alien captain responded. We are crystalline beings. We need specific atmospheric conditions and temperatures to survive. Our young ones are especially fragile. Many of our people are already very sick. Dr. Wells immediately began working with the ship's computer to analyze what the aliens had told them about their needs. The results were not encouraging. Captain, I can probably treat some of their sick, but our ship isn't designed for their biology. We can't house nearly 3,000 aliens. Chief Engineer Thompson had been scanning the alien ship with every sensor the Vanguard had. Captain, I think I might have some good news. Their technology is incredible, but it's also very different from ours. Explain, Lisa said. Their whole ship seems to be built like a living organism. Everything is connected to everything else in very complex ways. It's elegant and efficient, but when something goes wrong, it affects the whole system. Their biodrive didn't just break down. It was like a heart attack that damaged everything connected to it. And that's good news how? Alex asked. Mike grinned. Because human technology is built completely differently. We design everything in modules that can be removed and replaced. We build backup systems for our backup systems. Our technology might be crude compared to theirs, but it's also fixable. Lisa began to see what Mike was thinking. You think we can repair their ship? Not exactly repair it, but maybe I can jury-rig some of our equipment to work with theirs. Give them enough power to get their life support working properly. Captain Quineth's voice came through the speakers again. USS Vanguard, may we send some of our people to your ship? We have many who are injured and need immediate help. Lisa looked at Dr. Wells, who nodded. We can handle a few patients in our medical bay. Of course, Captain Quineth. We're preparing to receive your people now. An hour later, the first aliens in human history stepped aboard a human starship. The Zephyrians were tall, graceful beings that looked like they were made of living crystal. Their skin was translucent and seemed to glow with inner light. They moved with fluid motions that reminded Dr. Wells of dancers. The first alien through the airlock was Captain Quineth himself. He was over 7 feet tall with crystal formations growing from his head like a crown. When he spoke, his voice had a musical quality that made the universal translator work hard to convert his words. "Captain Manning," he said with a bow that seemed both formal and grateful. "We owe you our lives. We did not expect anyone to answer our call, especially not a species we had never encountered." Lisa extended her hand in the human gesture of greeting, then realized the alien might not understand it. But Captain Quineth looked at her hand with interest and carefully copied the gesture. His crystalline fingers felt warm and slightly rough, like polished stone. "We're glad we could help," Lisa said. "Now let's see what we can do to get your ship working again." Dr. Wells led the injured aliens to the medical bay while Mike Thompson suited up to visit the sanctuary. What he found there amazed him even more than the exterior view had. The alien ship's interior was like being inside a living creature, with walls that seemed to breathe and corridors that curved in impossible ways. The Zephyrian engineers who showed Mike around were fascinated by his human equipment. When he pulled out a simple wrench, they examined it like it was alien technology, which to them, it was. "You make tools that can be used for many different purposes," one of the engineers said through the translator. "Our tools grow from the ship itself for specific tasks." Mike showed them how human machines were built with standard parts that could be removed and replaced. The aliens were amazed by the concept of nuts and bolts, of modular design, of systems that could be shut down without affecting the whole ship. Meanwhile, on the Vanguard, Dr. Wells was learning about Zephyrian biology. The aliens' crystalline bodies were beautiful but fragile. They needed very specific atmospheric conditions to stay healthy, and their children grew from small crystal seeds that were extremely sensitive to temperature changes. Lieutenant Rodriguez worked with the Zephyrian communication specialists to improve the translation system. She discovered that their language was partially telepathic, based on light patterns as well as sound. The Zephyrians were amazed that humans could communicate using only audio signals. "Your species is very adaptable," Captain Quineth told Lisa as they watched their crews work together. "We have met many species in our travels, but none that could so quickly understand and work with technology so different from their own." "We've had to be adaptable," Lisa replied. "Humans come from a world where survival meant learning to use whatever was available. We're good at making things work even when they weren't designed to work together." As the hours passed, Mike Thompson and the Zephyrian engineers made remarkable progress. By connecting human power cells to the alien ship's bioelectrical systems, they managed to restore partial power to the sanctuary's life support. It wasn't a permanent solution, but it would keep the refugees alive while they worked on something better. The real breakthrough came when Mike realized that human computer systems could interface with Zephyrian biosystems through careful adaptation. The aliens had never thought of using artificial computers to control living systems, while humans had never imagined living systems that could be programmed like computers. "This partnership is giving us ideas we never would have had alone," Captain Quineth said as he watched human and Zephyrian engineers working side by side. "Perhaps this disaster will lead to something wonderful." Lisa hoped he was right, but she was worried about more immediate problems. The sanctuary was still too damaged to travel, and they were deep in unclaimed space with no help coming. Worse, Captain Quineth had mentioned the Korthak Empire that had destroyed his people's home. Lisa had a bad feeling that their troubles were just beginning. The repair work had been going well for 2 days when Lieutenant Rodriguez detected something that made her blood run cold. Her sensors were picking up multiple ships approaching at high speed, and they weren't broadcasting any friendly signals. "Captain Manning to the bridge immediately," Sarah called over the ship's communication system. "We have incoming vessels. Multiple contacts, moving fast." Lisa arrived on the bridge within minutes, followed closely by Commander Carter and Dr. Wells. On the main screen, Sarah had displayed what her sensors were detecting. 3 large ships and several smaller ones were heading straight for their position. "How long until they get here?" Lisa asked. "At their current speed, about 6 hours," Sarah replied. "And Captain, I'm getting readings that suggest these ships are heavily armed." Alex was already running tactical analysis on his console. "Those are warships, Captain. Much bigger than us and definitely built for fighting." Captain Quineth's voice came through the communication system from the sanctuary. "USS Vanguard, are you detecting the approaching ships?" "We need to talk immediately." A few minutes later, Captain Quineth and several of his officers were on the Vanguard's bridge. The tall crystalline being looked frightened in a way that made everyone nervous. "Those are Korthak ships," Quineth said. "They must have been tracking us." "The Korthaks are the ones who destroyed our world. They hunt down refugee ships and either enslave the survivors or kill them." "How many ships are we talking about?" Lisa asked. "3 heavy cruisers and what you humans would call fighter squadrons. Each cruiser is 5 times the size of your ship and carries weapons that can destroy planets. The fighters are fast and deadly." The bridge fell silent as everyone absorbed this information. Dr. Wells was the first to speak. "We need to get out of here. Right now." "We can't just leave," Lisa said. "The sanctuary can't travel yet and there are nearly 3,000 refugees on board." "Captain," Alex said carefully, "we're one exploration ship against a fleet of warships. Even if we wanted to fight, we'd be destroyed in minutes. We can't help anyone if we're dead." Mike Thompson had been listening from his position at the engineering station. "Actually, Captain, I might have an idea. It's crazy and dangerous, but it might work." "Let's hear it," Lisa said. Mike moved to the main display and began calling up technical diagrams of both ships. "The sanctuary's biodrives are damaged but not completely dead. If we overload them in a controlled way, we could turn the entire ship into a massive energy weapon. One shot but incredibly powerful." Captain Quineth looked shocked. "That would destroy the sanctuary completely, and it might not even work. Biodrives aren't designed to be weapons." "That's where human engineering comes in," Mike continued. "We use our power systems to trigger the overload, and our computer systems to control it. We turn your elegant biosystem into a crude but effective weapon." "And what happens to my people while we're turning their ship into a bomb?" Quineth asked. "We evacuate as many as we can to the Vanguard," Dr. Wells said. "Our life support can handle maybe 300 aliens for a short time. The rest would have to stay on the sanctuary with volunteers from both crews." Lisa studied the tactical situation on the main screen. "Even if this weapon works, we're still facing 3 cruisers and multiple fighters. One big shot won't be enough. That's where we use human tactics," Alex said, beginning to understand the plan. "We don't fight them like other aliens do. We fight them like humans, dirty, unpredictable, and mean." Over the next few hours, both crews worked frantically to prepare for the coming battle. Dr. Wells modified the Vanguard's environmental systems to support Zephyrian refugees. They could only save the most critical cases, the children, the severely injured, and the pregnant females who were carrying crystal eggs. Mike Thompson led a team of human and Zephyrian engineers in the dangerous work of converting the sanctuary's biodrives into a weapon. The process required them to remove safety systems and install human-built triggers that could cause a massive energy release. One mistake could destroy both ships immediately. Lieutenant Rodriguez worked with the Zephyrian communication specialists to coordinate between the 2 ships. The timing would have to be perfect, with no room for error. Captain Quineth made the hardest decision of his life. He would stay on the sanctuary with over 2,000 of his people, trusting their lives to a desperate plan created by aliens they had known for less than a week. "Why are you doing this?" he asked Lisa as they watched the final preparations. "You could leave now and save yourselves. We're not your people." "You owe us nothing," Lisa thought about his question. "Because it's the right thing to do, and because if we run away now, we'll spend the rest of our lives knowing we abandoned friends when they needed us most." As the Korthak fleet grew closer, the 2 crews completed their preparations. The Vanguard had been modified with additional armor plating taken from the sanctuary's outer hull. The alien ship had been turned into a massive, directed energy weapon that could only be fired once before it destroyed itself. 300 Zephyrian refugees were now crowded into every available space on the Vanguard. The ship's corridors were filled with tall crystalline beings who spoke in musical voices and glowed with soft inner light. Dr. Wells had managed to create temporary life support for them, but it wouldn't last long. "Incoming transmission from the Korthak fleet," Sarah announced. The main screen flickered and showed a massive alien face that looked like it belonged on a nightmare. The Korthak had thick gray skin, small red eyes, and teeth like daggers. When it spoke, its voice was harsh and full of menace. "Attention, unknown vessel. You are harboring enemies of the Korthak Empire. Surrender the Zephyrian refugees immediately and you will be allowed to leave. Refuse and we will destroy you." Lisa stepped forward so the alien could see her clearly. "This is Captain Lisa Manning of the USS Vanguard. The beings on this ship are under our protection. If you want them, you'll have to go through us. The Korthak captain laughed, showing rows of sharp teeth. One small ship against the might of the Empire? You are either very brave or very stupid. It doesn't matter. In 1 hour, you will all be dead or enslaved. The transmission ended, leaving the bridge in silence. Lisa looked around at her crew and at the Zephyrian refugees who were watching with large, frightened eyes. Well, she said, I guess we're about to find out what humans are really made of. The Korthak fleet approached like a pack of predators closing in on wounded prey. Captain Sekhmoth of the flagship Bloodfang expected this to be a simple hunt. He had destroyed dozens of refugee ships over the past months, and one small alien vessel wouldn't change anything. Look at that tiny ship, Sekhmoth growled to his officers. What species builds something so small and thinks it can fight us? Sensors indicate they call themselves humans, sir, his weapons officer reported. We have no data on their species in our military files. It doesn't matter, Sekhmoth said. Destroy the small ship first, then capture the Zephyrian refugees. The Empire can always use more slaves. On the bridge of the USS Vanguard, Captain Manning watched the enemy ships grow larger on her screen. The 3 Korthak cruisers were massive, dark vessels covered in weapon ports and armor plating. The smaller fighter ships buzzed around them like angry insects. They're not even trying to be clever, Commander Carter observed. They're just flying straight at us in formation. That's because they've never fought humans before, Lisa replied. They don't know what we're capable of. Let's show them. The battle began when the Korthaks opened fire at maximum range, sending massive energy beams toward the Vanguard. But Lisa had positioned her ship near a large asteroid, and at her command the human vessel dove behind the rocky cover. What are they doing? Sekhmoth demanded as the human ship disappeared from his screens. Why aren't they fighting back? The answer came seconds later as the Vanguard used the asteroid's gravity to slingshot around its far side. Emerging at a completely different angle with all weapons firing, the surprise attack caught the Korthak formation off guard, damaging one of the smaller ships before the human vessel disappeared behind another asteroid. Impossible, Sekhmoth snarled. No one fights like that. It's undignified, but the humans were just getting started. Instead of engaging in the formal, honor-based combat that most alien species preferred, they used every dirty trick they could think of. The Vanguard darted between asteroids, used debris as cover, and attacked from unexpected angles. Mike Thompson monitored the weapon conversion on the Sanctuary while coordinating with the bridge. Captain, the biodrive weapon is almost ready, but we need the Korthaks to group together. Right now they're too spread out. Working on it, Lisa replied as she ordered another wild maneuver that brought the Vanguard dangerously close to the enemy fleet. The Korthak fighters tried to surround the human ship, but found themselves confused by tactics they had never encountered. The humans used the larger ship's own weapons against the fighters, timing their movements so that Korthak cruisers accidentally fired on their own smaller vessels. Lieutenant Rodriguez maintained communication with the Sanctuary while monitoring enemy transmissions. Captain, I'm picking up their tactical communications. They're getting frustrated. Their commander is ordering them to tighten formation. Perfect, Lisa said. That's exactly what we want. The Vanguard made what appeared to be a desperate suicide charge directly at the Korthak flagship. Sekhmoth laughed as he watched the small ship racing towards certain destruction. Finally, they're going to fight with honor, he said. All ships concentrate fire on the human vessel. Let's end this. The 3 Korthak cruisers moved closer together to focus their weapons on the approaching Vanguard. Their fighter squadrons pulled back to avoid hitting their own ships. It was exactly the formation Mike Thompson needed. Now, Lisa shouted. On the Sanctuary, Captain Quineth and Mike Thompson triggered the converted biodrive weapon. The entire alien ship pulsed with blinding energy, as its living systems overloaded in a carefully controlled cascade failure. The energy built up for 3 seconds that felt like hours, then released in a massive directed pulse that tore through space like a spear of pure destruction. The pulse hit the tightly grouped Korthak fleet with devastating effect. 2 of the cruisers were crippled instantly, their power systems overloaded and their weapons offline. The fighters that were too close to the pulse were simply vaporized. Only the flagship Bloodfang survived with most of its systems intact. But Sekhmoth's arrogance had turned to shock and rage. In seconds, his overwhelming fleet had been reduced to 1 damaged ship and a handful of fighters. The Vanguard used the confusion to strike at the flagship's command center with precision weapons fire. Human gunnery, trained for accuracy rather than raw power, found weak spots in the Korthak armor that their own weapons had never been designed to exploit. How is this possible? Sekhmoth roared as explosions rocked his ship. We are the Korthak Empire. We have conquered dozens of worlds. But the humans weren't finished. As the Bloodfang tried to retreat, the vanguard pursued like a terrier chasing a much larger dog. Lisa's crew used every trick they had learned in the past hour, turning the Korthak's size and power against them. The final blow came when Commander Carter realized that the Korthak flagship's main weapon required several seconds to charge between shots. During one of those charging periods, the vanguard positioned itself directly above the enemy ship and fired everything it had at the weapon's power coupling. The explosion that followed lit up space like a small sun. The Bloodfang's main weapon system destroyed itself in a chain reaction that left the massive ship helpless and drifting. Moth found himself staring at a communication screen showing the face of the human captain who had just defeated his entire fleet. Her species looked small and weak, but her eyes held a determination that made him suddenly afraid. "This is Captain Manning," Lisa said calmly. "Your fleet is destroyed. Surrender now and we'll allow you to leave in whatever ships still work. Continue fighting and we'll finish what you started." For the first time in his military career, Captain Sekhmoth of the Korthak Empire surrendered to an enemy he had thought was inferior. As his remaining ships limped away from the battlefield, he realized that the galaxy had just become a much more dangerous place. On the bridge of the Vanguard, the human crew was too exhausted to celebrate their victory. They had won, but the cost was enormous. The sanctuary was completely destroyed, its brave crew having sacrificed their ship to save their people. Dr. Wells was treating wounded from both species in the overcrowded medical bay. Mike Thompson was trying to repair battle damage while keeping life support working for hundreds of refugee aliens. Lieutenant Rodriguez was coordinating rescue efforts and monitoring for any remaining Korthak ships. Captain Quineth, who had somehow survived the destruction of his ship, stood beside Lisa on the bridge. The tall crystalline being looked at the debris field where his home for the past months had once drifted. "Your people fought like nothing I have ever seen," he said quietly. "You took impossible odds and made them work in your favor." "How do humans do such things?" Lisa thought about his question as she watched her crew work to save as many lives as possible. "We do whatever it takes to protect the people we care about, even if we just met them a few days ago." The battle was over, but their problems were far from solved. They had nearly 3,000 alien refugees on a ship designed for 300 humans. They were days away from any help, and word of their victory would eventually reach the Korthak Empire. But they had won. Against all odds, a single human exploration ship had defeated a fleet of alien warships and saved thousands of innocent lives. It was a victory that would echo across the galaxy and announce humanity's arrival among the stars in the most human way possible, by fighting for those who couldn't fight for themselves. In the days following the battle, the USS Vanguard became a floating city of two different species working together to survive. Every corridor was filled with tall Zephyrian refugees who glowed softly in the dim emergency lighting. The ship's life support systems ran at maximum capacity, while Dr. Wells and her alien counterparts worked around the clock to keep everyone alive. Captain Manning found herself dealing with problems no human had ever faced before. How do you feed 3,000 aliens when your food systems are designed for 300 humans? How do you handle the cultural differences between species that had never met before a week ago? The solutions came from cooperation between humans and Zephyrians. The aliens could survive on modified human food, though they needed mineral supplements that Mike Thompson's team learned to synthesize from asteroid materials. The Zephyrians helped by creating living air filters from their own biotechnology, improving the ship's atmosphere for both species. Lieutenant Rodriguez had become the unofficial ambassador between the two peoples. She worked with Zephyrian linguists to create better translation programs while learning about their culture. The refugees were artists, engineers, teachers, and farmers. Ordinary people who had lost everything when the Korthaks destroyed their world. "They're not so different from us," Rodriguez told Captain Manning during one of their daily briefings. "They love their children, they mourn their dead, and they dream of finding a new home where they can live in peace. But the immediate problem was getting the refugees to safety. The Vanguard was overcrowded and running low on supplies. Earth was months away, and they had no guarantee that human authorities would accept thousands of alien refugees. The answer came from an unexpected source. On the 5th day after the battle, the ship's sensors detected multiple vessels approaching. But unlike the Korthak fleet, these ships broadcast peaceful intentions and offered help. "Captain Manning," came a voice over the communication system. "This is Admiral Nexus of the Galactic Cooperation Council. We have been monitoring your situation and wish to offer assistance." Lisa was surprised to learn that their battle with the Korthaks had been observed by several alien governments. Word of the human ship that had defeated a superior enemy force to save refugees was spreading quickly through the galaxy. "The courage your species has shown has impressed many of our member races," Admiral Nexus continued. "We would like to formally invite humanity to join the galactic community." Within hours, the Vanguard was surrounded by a small fleet of alien vessels representing different species from across the galaxy. There were sleek ships from the aquatic delphinids, massive cargo vessels from the insectoid keepers, and elegant cruisers from the energy-based Lumina. Each ship offered to take some of the Zephyrian refugees to safety. More importantly, they offered to establish diplomatic relations with humanity and share technology that could help both species. Captain Quineth stood beside Lisa on the bridge as they watched the alien fleet. "Your people have done something remarkable," he said. "In 1 week you have gone from unknown species to heroes of the galaxy. Every government out there wants to be allied with the humans who defeated the Korthaks." Dr. Wells was especially excited about the medical exchange programs being offered. The Galactic Cooperation Council had treatments for diseases that plagued humanity, while human medical techniques could help species that had never considered some of their problems solvable. Mike Thompson was equally thrilled about the engineering opportunities. The combination of human modular design with alien biotechnology could create ships and systems far superior to what either species could build alone. But not all of the news was good. Admiral Nexus warned that the Korthak Empire would not forget their defeat. They would eventually send larger fleets to hunt down the humans who had embarrassed them. "Your species has announced itself to the galaxy in the most dramatic way possible," the Admiral explained. "You have made powerful friends, but also dangerous enemies. The road ahead will not be easy." Lisa understood the warning. Humanity had wanted to explore the stars and find their place among alien civilizations. Now they had that place, but it came with responsibilities and dangers they had never imagined. As the refugee transfer began, Lisa watched Zephyrian families being reunited and settled on ships that would take them to new homes. Children who glowed like living jewels played with human crew members who had become their protectors. Elderly Zephyrians shared their knowledge with human scientists eager to learn. Captain Quineth was among the last to leave the Vanguard. He had chosen to accompany the humans back to Earth as the first alien ambassador to humanity. "I want to learn more about your people," he told Lisa. "A species that would risk everything for strangers has much to teach the galaxy about courage and compassion." The journey back to Earth took 3 weeks, with the Vanguard escorted by ships from a dozen different alien governments. By the time they reached the solar system, news of their mission had already reached every human colony and station. Earth's governments were scrambling to prepare for first contact with multiple alien species. The simple exploration mission that had left Earth months ago was returning as humanity's introduction to galactic civilization. As the USS Vanguard approached Earth orbit, Lisa stood on the bridge with Captain Quineth and her crew. Through the main screen, they could see their home planet growing larger, its blue and white surface beautiful against the black of space. "What happens now?" Commander Carter asked. Lisa thought about everything they had experienced. The distress call that had started it all, the desperate battle against impossible odds, the friendships formed between species that had never met. They had left Earth as explorers and were returning as ambassadors. "Now we build something new," she said. "We take what we've learned about working with other species and create a future where humans and aliens can explore the galaxy together." Dr. Wells looked at the data she had collected about Zephyrian biology and the other species they had encountered. The medical advances alone could add decades to human lifespan and cure diseases we've been fighting for centuries. Mike Thompson was already drawing up plans for hybrid human-alien ships that would combine the best of both technologies. With their biosystems and our modular design, we could build vessels that are both incredibly efficient and easily repairable. Lieutenant Rodriguez had compiled the first comprehensive human-alien translation database. The linguistic connections we've discovered could help us communicate with dozens of species. We're not just making contact with the Zephyrians, we're connecting with an entire galactic community. As Earth grew larger in the main screen, Captain Quineth spoke quietly to Lisa. Your species has a saying, I believe. Something about how a journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step. Lisa nodded. That's right. Then perhaps this is not the end of your story, but the beginning. You answered a call for help in the darkness, and in doing so, you brought light to the entire galaxy. The USS Vanguard entered Earth orbit accompanied by the most diverse fleet of alien vessels ever assembled. Below them, humanity prepared to take its place among the stars, no longer alone in the universe. And it had all started with a simple choice: to answer the call when strangers needed help. In the years that would follow, as humans and aliens worked together to explore new worlds and face new challenges, that moment would be remembered as the day humanity proved that the most advanced technology and the most powerful weapons meant nothing compared to the courage to do what was right. The stars were no longer distant points of light. They were destinations, filled with friends and allies who had learned that when darkness fell and hope seemed lost, somewhere in the void, humans would answer the call.